One of the victim's family members jumped over the partition.
There's also the security guards. There's also the cameraman. There's also the other guy.
That's right.
You know,
now, if you'd have did it one-on-one, different ball game.
Maybe it would have worked.
You got to have your paperwork in the feds. You know what I'm saying? You got some spots, but that's because there's more rest there than goddamn real, that ain't snitched on them up.
Gucci Mane goes head-to-head with Pusha T's crew, and it all breaks loose right after explosive courtroom details go public. This is bigger than a rap beef. The streets, the music industry, and the federal legal system are all crashing into each other at once. Federal prosecutors are building a serious case, describing what they call a carefully coordinated operation. The defense is pushing back hard, arguing the evidence simply doesn't hold up. And right in the middle of that legal storm, industry voices are speaking up, saying this outcome was never really a surprise. Big homie CC didn't hold back. He pointed directly at a culture he believes sets these situations in motion long before they ever reach a courtroom. His message was clear. When street mentalities mix with high-level business, things don't just fall apart. They fall apart in front of everyone.
And I feel like they anticipated that Gucci was going to keep it street. But look, bro,
even if Gucci kept it street,
when you come from environments of impoverished circumstances, most of your homies is going to be monsters.
So the question now goes far beyond what happened inside that courtroom. Is Gucci Mane finally making his move in a deliberate, calculated way, or was this entire situation set in motion long before anyone saw it coming? What brought everything to the surface were the details leaking straight out of federal court. And once those details went public, the whole narrative shifted almost overnight. At the center of it all are serious federal allegations, kidnapping, extortion, and an incident prosecutors say took place inside a Dallas recording studio. According to the government's account, this was no random event. It was organized, planned, a situation where, allegedly, pressure was applied to force the release of a contract tied to Gucci Mane's label.
Arranged this meeting purportedly to discuss the terms of his recording contract with one of the victims, Williams Jr. and 8 co-conspirators, several of whom traveled from Memphis, Tennessee, executed a coordinated armed takeover.
That alone was enough to send shockwaves through the industry. But then came more layers, more charges, more names, more claims about what happened before, during, and after that moment. Suddenly, this wasn't about one person anymore. It became a case involving multiple individuals, each facing life-changing consequences if things go the wrong way. And the speed at which it spread was remarkable. Social media erupted almost instantly. Blogs started breaking down every detail. Clips, commentary, theories. Everyone had something to say. But here's where things took a sharp turn. The deeper people dug into the case, the more one name kept surfacing, not in the background, right at the center of it all. That's when all the focus landed on Gucci Mane. He isn't just a name loosely attached to this story, he's a central figure in it. As the head of 1017 Records, his business relationship with Pusha T's camp is what ties the entire situation together. According to the allegations, the whole incident revolves around that relationship. Prosecutors claim that during a studio meeting, pressure was applied in a direct attempt to force a contract release. That single claim pulled Gucci Mane from the background and placed him right at the heart of the case being built in court.
Issue. The issue is that Pooh Shiesty allegedly wanted to be released from this contract. According to the documents by police, Pooh Shiesty asks RD, Gucci Mane, allegedly to be let out of the contract.
But what makes this situation even more layered is how people are interpreting Gucci's role, not just legally, but strategically. Big homie CC offered a perspective that adds real context to how Gucci Mane operates today. His point was simple but significant. Gucci isn't the same person he was years ago.
After everything he's been through, especially during his time away, his entire approach to life and business shifted. And a major part of that shift happened on the business side. The way his finances are managed, the way decisions get made, it all looks different now. There's a reason people keep bringing up the role his wife played. She stepped in, took control of the business operations, and helped transform what he had built into something far more structured and sustainable.
Who he is now. His wife had power of attorney over all of his business while he was locked up.
That kind of structure changes everything about how a person moves. It turns raw reactions into calculated decisions. It turns emotion into strategy. So when people expect a loud, public response, that's not necessarily how someone operating at that level thinks anymore. Everything becomes measured, controlled, intentional. And according to some, that strategy may have already been playing out behind the scenes long before the public had any idea what was happening. Here's where the narrative takes an interesting turn. When people hear Gucci Mane confronts Pusha T's crew, they picture something direct, face-to-face, loud, immediate. But based on what's actually being discussed, this confrontation didn't unfold the way most people imagined. It played out through decisions, through systems, through moves that don't look dramatic on the surface, but carry very serious consequences underneath. Big Homie CC broke it down in a way that made a lot of people stop and think. He pointed to something most people overlook, how high-value jewelry and assets are handled when things go wrong. When items like that are insured, there's a process, and that process doesn't allow for silence. It requires documentation, official reports, formal steps, and once those steps are triggered, everything else follows automatically.
File a police report for that jewelry, niggas don't get identified, and he's not going to cooperate no more. That's exactly what just took place. Exactly what just took place. So, on a business aspect of things,
the argument being made is straightforward. Once that process starts, the situation moves off the streets and into a completely different arena, one where paperwork carries more weight than reputation, where procedures replace personal responses. And that's exactly where the idea of confrontation flips, because instead of a physical reaction, what you get is a chain reaction. A report leads to an investigation leads to charges, and suddenly, what everyone expected to stay quiet becomes public, documented, and impossible to ignore. That's the real tension here. On one side, there's an expectation, especially from certain circles, that situations like this get handled a specific way, quietly, internally, without any outside involvement. But that's not how this played out. Instead of silence, there was structure. Instead of emotion, there was process. And instead of a direct confrontation, the system itself became the response. For a lot of people watching this unfold, that shift in approach may have caught them completely off guard. As the conversation kept growing, attention moved beyond the incident itself and toward the people involved, not just as individuals, but as a collective, as a crew. And that's when a more controversial perspective started gaining real traction. The idea that in situations like this, behavior doesn't happen in isolation. It reflects leadership. It reflects influence. It reflects environment. Big Homie CC said it plainly. When you follow a certain type of energy, you start moving the same way. That follow your leader mentality became a major talking point, not as a confirmed fact, but as a lens people are using to make sense of everything unfolding.
behind somebody like this, if you got a robbing-ass leader, you're going to be a robbing-ass crew. If you got a get-money-ass team, get-money-ass leader, you have a get-money-ass crew. If you got to follow the leader, everybody slime and shiesty this, the back door wide open.
Because when you look at the allegations, the lifestyle being discussed, and the decisions being questioned, a pattern starts to emerge. High visibility, expensive assets, fast movement, and in some cases, risks that don't always match the level of exposure those involved were carrying. Then there's social media, and it keeps coming up in this conversation for a reason. In today's world, nothing stays private for long. Moments get posted, items get displayed, timelines get reconstructed without people even realizing they're building one. That's where things get complicated. Cases today aren't just about what happened in real time. They're rebuilt through digital trails, images, videos, posts that never disappear. The old saying was that the streets talk. Now it's the internet that talks. And unlike the streets, the internet doesn't forget anything. So when people say modern cases are different, this is exactly what they mean. It's not just about who was there or what was said. It's about what can be traced, replayed, and analyzed long after the moment has passed. And according to those watching this closely, if things had gone even slightly differently in that moment, the outcome could have been far worse. That brings everything to another critical layer, the people who were present and how they responded when it all went down. Because one thing that keeps coming up is how fast situations can spiral when tension is high and multiple people are involved. According to commentary from voices like T.K. Kirkland, this wasn't a moment that stayed controlled throughout. The way it's being described, there were points where things could have gone somewhere much darker. Movements, reactions, split-second decisions, moments where one wrong move could have changed everything. And that's where human behavior becomes a major factor. Not everyone reacts the same way under pressure. Some stay calm, some panic, some try to take control, others just focus on surviving the moment. But what truly shifts the entire dynamic is the presence of witnesses, because once you introduce people who aren't directly involved, security, staff, or anyone there to observe, it stops being a private interaction entirely. Because when you look at the allegations, the lifestyle being discussed, and the decisions being questioned, a pattern starts to emerge. High visibility, expensive assets, fast movement, and in some cases, risks that don't always match the level of exposure those involved were carrying.